From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where narratives collide, perspectives matter and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders, and I'm Umar Khalid Butt. Now, during the course of today's show, as well as we've been doing in the previous shows as well, we'll continue to decipher and understand a world without borders and boundaries and bring you stories that are extremely important in this changing geopolitical and geostrategic order. We'll begin with the top stories of the day, or as we call them, region lines. We begin from Pakistan, where Indian-backed Afghan Taliban proxies have carried out a deadly suicide attack outside of district court in Islamabad that claimed the lives of at least 12 people and injured 27 others. Sources reveal coordination between the Indian-sponsored Fitna al-Kharij network and elements of the Afghan Taliban in the past. Also, security forces continue clearance operations at Wana Cadet College following the terrorist attack, safely evacuating all students and staff. Security forces have vowed to continue operation until the remaining Kharij have been neutralized. Earlier, security forces safely evacuated all 350 people. While in India, following the recent blast in Delhi, tensions flared as Indian Godi media swiftly accused Pakistan of involvement despite the absence of any evidence whatsoever. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP and its propaganda-driven media twisted facts of the Delhi cylinder blast, spinning a false anti-Pakistan narrative to distract from domestic failures and mismanagement. Indian politicians and netizens questioned anti-Pakistan narrative of PM Modi and his Godi media. We'll turn first of all to the suicide blast that happened in G11 in Islamabad outside the district courts, and that of course happened around 12:40 p.m. this afternoon, a heinous incident that has occurred after a period of 3 years after the I-10 blast that occurred 3 years back. This is the second such incident that happens in Islamabad, the suicide incident nevertheless. And again, we are reminded of the fight against terrorism that Pakistan has been waging since decades. Pakistan has successfully thwarted all such elements, but then such elements continue to heave and raise their ugly heads time and again with financial backing from players of the region, and of course the player in the region is India. Let's begin our conversation as far as this very important topic is concerned, and we've been joined by two guests to talk about that. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Farhan Bokhari Sahab. He's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Bokhari Sahab, to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Lieutenant General Ghulam Mustafa Sahab. He's a defense analyst, sir. Also, thank you very much to have joined us. We'll begin with you, Farhan Bokhari Sahab. This coordinated planning that happened as far as, this district court attack in Islamabad is concerned, that reminds us of what happened 3 years back. Between the Indian intelligence networks and elements within Afghanistan, what does it all point towards? A continued spate of anti-Pakistan activities by these two elements combined, or is there something else at play as well?
Well, that's the obvious point which you've mentioned here, which is that of course it's a combination of those two forces working against Pakistan. But having said that, I think we should always remember that Pakistan has already paid a very heavy price in human terms, and this is something which has been going on for possibly for a little less than 50 years now, since the Afghan war began, and the rest is history. 17 years ago, 2008, the big Marriott bombing, not very far from PTV headquarters, just around the corner from here.
I remember that.
And that happened, and I have a special reason for remembering that, because I was invited for iftar that day, and I just chose not to go because I had a lot of work, and then came news of this terrible attack. It's not going to be easy for Pakistan to go through even the future, where there might be further attempts to undermine Pakistan. It's absolutely therefore vital that Pakistan should do all it can to forge the best possible national unity. It's also essential that all political players who want to be part of Pakistan's mainframe politics must come on the side of opposing these elements. There are no two ways about it. I think we've long passed the stage of trying to negotiate some kind of possible agreement where these people would see reason and would abandon their determination to undermine Pakistan through the worst possible violence. So I think the road ahead is very clear, and Pakistanis across the board really need to be united, and all political players across the country need to back this campaign so that eventually we do prevail, and inshallah one day we will prevail.
Pakistan's sovereignty is under attack, as we've seen in these two incidents that have occurred. But of course, we are relegating for the moment to what has happened in Islamabad. I'll revert to Lieutenant General Ghulam Mustafa Saab. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. My leading question concerning this very incident is the timing of the attack. How do you see this when this attack happens just after the whole gamut of negotiations between the Afghan Taliban and the Pakistani government happened not once, not twice, but many a times?
I think this should have been expected. Those of us who have been in this game, I should say, at least I had warned the moment we decided to go into kind of an action against Afghanistan that there will be a fallout of this, and the fallout will be a kind of a attack that we have seen in Islamabad. And I actually fear far more now, and I'm actually, worried. Are we really aware of the threat that Pakistan is facing? And what is the complexity of the threat that Pakistan is facing? And how do we deal with it in every element and every aspect of this threat? That is something that continues to at least confound me, because I don't find my government looking at it at the broader picture, because we have been focused only on Kabul, and we are, going after India. Fine, India is responsible, but do we know that there are other players also available there in this, right there in Kabul, and those who are backing this regime, and they're the ones who are not only providing funds, they're also providing training. They have already provided weapons to them, and now that we are facing this kind of a terrorism in Pakistan, and we realize that Taliban will not negotiate, or if they do, they won't come to any agreement, and their logic or their reason should have been very clear to us. I thought we were very hasty in our decision going to Doha, because with all my due respect to Qatar and Turkey, because they are very great friends of Pakistan, their influence in Afghanistan is not to the extent that they can force Taliban into kind of an agreement that is needed. We, I think, should have realized that. And that is where I think our issue, our problem continues to at least exacerbate. The point is, there are only two ways to deal with it. And with due respect again to our defense minister and everybody else who has been saying all kinds of things, kinetic operations is the last resort when your diplomacy has failed. Did we try our diplomacy the way we should have? My own view is, and I have no reason to at least change that to force Taliban into a decision, you have to force India away from, or Taliban away from India. Can you do that? Can you wean them away? Can you wean the Taliban away from the American money that is pouring into Afghanistan to the tune of 3 billion plus? And can you wean these Taliban away from Israel? And if you have to, then how do we do it? We have to force Taliban into a negotiated settlement of the issue, because that is ultimately the end result that we must achieve, aim for. How can we do that? That is, I think, where I feel that we have had a kind of a lapse for a very strong word that comes to my mind. I don't want to use that, but
But you know, the fact is,
my own.
differential, sir, you are posing a lot of questions, and a lot of questions, of course, that are very relevant in this regard. But another question that I'd like to ask you is what emanated from the Afghan social media accounts hours before this heinous attack happened in Islamabad, and they were all pointing towards something that was about to happen. Doesn't this re-amplify Pakistan's assertion that the elements in Afghanistan, whether they are linked to Afghan Taliban most probably or other elements, are trying to use the Afghan soil against Pakistan, against Pakistani elements, against Pakistan's sovereignty, against Pakistan's readiness, or against Pakistan itself as a state?
No, they can't be. I mean, there's no question that they're not involved. They're fully involved, and they're the ones who are planning it. They're the ones who are being helped in planning and organizing and executing this operation. There is no doubt in my mind that the regime in Kabul is fully responsible for it, and they're the ones who are backing up, whether it's a TPP or whatever else name you might give to the group that has claimed the responsibility. There's no doubt in my mind that the Taliban are the instruments who are being employed against Pakistan, and they are the ones who actually, because of their relationship with Pakistan and their understanding of our system, and having been here, most of them, they understand Pakistan more than we understand Afghanistan that way. So therefore, I have no doubt in my mind, and that is not that, and there's under question. My only question is, are we aware of the threat, total complexity of it? If you look back, get back from Kabul a little and look at the map around it, and look at the people who are there, and who are the ones who are, I mean, just a question that I would like to again ask. Is it not clear that there are people who are not very happy with the development of CPEC in this region? Isn't it very clear that the power structure, international power structure, seems to be settling in favor of East? They don't like it. Isn't it fair that the financial capital is slowly and gradually shifting from New York to Beijing, and they don't like it? So that is where the whole thing has to be viewed that way. And then we have to come back to seeing how can we force Taliban to beat the people of Afghanistan who should and must live in peace themselves, and let Pakistan also be in peace. Because if Pakistan is unstable, Taliban and the Kabul can't be stable, therefore. So my whole view is that our diplomatic approach to the issue is found lacking, because if at this point in time, if one were to go in the regional framework, and we were to, because our relationship with Iran, alhamdulillah, has improved tremendously, and China and Russia are not too far away from Pakistan. And luckily, as it happens, Tajikistan is also now no more in that frame where we thought that they are working for India and America. So these, at least 5 countries, they are looking at in one direction. And they are the ones who are also directly interested, and they are also directly affected. So if possible, if it's not out of blue that I'm talking about, regional approach to the issue of terrorism in Taliban. That is what I am trying to highlight.
What you are hinting at, regional approach, is what you are talking about, General Ghulam Mustafa Saab. We'll get back to you on that. But Farhan Saab, this attack that we have seen in Islamabad, and of course, we'll come to the Wana attack as well. But how does the attack in Islamabad also reflect Islamabad's point of view of the broader pattern of India's use of the Afghan territory as a strategic proxy, especially also following its huge defeat in May this year?
I think there's a series of events which have flowed from, which have followed events in May this year, and this kind of an escalation in the view of some who are very knowledgeable, certainly far more knowledgeable on security matters than I am. This was expected. Now the question is, how do we deal with it? That is really where I think no matter how much we look at the regional dynamics, the broader regional international picture, and so on, I agree those are important elements. But the internal picture is one that needs to be addressed, and I'm not saying that there are any visible lapses, but what I'm saying is that maybe after these attacks, these latest attacks, there's a need to review what we have today and possibly look at ways to consolidate our internal picture further. Because this kind of thing, this kind of escalation is not going to be the last of its kind, sadly and unfortunately, one has to say
But that is what the intention is, that is what this happened, that is why the timing of it also matters in the wake of all that is happening in the region, you know.
Yes, and it's a very tragic and sad situation, but it's out there and needs to be addressed. And as I said before, I would like to emphasize this further, that we need to carve an absolute national unity from here onwards. Look at our internal picture. There's no room now for any apologists for the Taliban in Pakistan, as we've seen in the past, including the recent past, unfortunately. There's no room now left for negotiations. This just has to be a one-way street.
All right. This should, General Saab, this be a one-way street? Is there no time left for negotiation, because Pakistan has tried its level best through different delegations that have gone in the past, and of course these recent talks that have happened? Why are the Afghan Taliban not understanding one simple fact: stop the infiltration of terrorist elements from their soil into Pakistan?
Well, they understand it very well. I mean, I don't know why we are not clear about this. They understand very well, and they're doing it deliberately. Do you think Islamabad incident happened just all of a sudden, just not out of the blue? It was a planned affair, and they had recce, they had done all kind of preparations, and it happened exactly in the heart of Pakistan. I mean, attacking Pakistan's capital. That should at least is giving a impression, trying to give an impression that Pakistan's capital is not safe, and they can reach there, and whenever they want, they can do it. That is, I mean, that is how experts they are in their own job that they're doing against Pakistan. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, there is never any question about it. But the point is, how do we go about challenging this? Farhan Saab said this is a one-way street. You don't talk to them. What do you do with them? You attack Afghanistan. Can we overrun Afghanistan and control the entire lot of it? Is that what we are trying to do? I mean, yes, Pakistan has the kinetic energy that can be used against it. Pakistan has used it effectively, created the environments. But it has to be persistent effort. And there has to be, I mean, twin prongs about it. That Pakistan is not going to tolerate anything of this kind, and Pakistan will retaliate. And Pakistan will choose the targets that it wants to, and will attack them, and attack them with impunity. The point is, will that end the whole thing? At the end of the day, when you talk about at the end of the game, when you want to settle the whole thing issue, you have to go back to the negotiating table. Those are the conditions that Pakistan needs to create, where this regime in Kabul is compelled to agree to the international community, and then they show proper, tangible, visible, recognizable measures that they have taken to rid their own territory of all kinds of terrorism and all kinds of these nasty elements. So there has to be a well thought out long-term strategy, because it's not going to happen in a day or 2 days. There has to be a long-term thinking on the whole about the whole issue. And then, of course, wherever needed, Pakistan must not hesitate in applying its force that Pakistan has. Alhamdulillah, Pakistan armed forces are pretty capable of doing what is required of them. But then at the end of the day, which I'm talking about, is that this army application of force, whatever you're doing, will create conditions. And the conditions will be for the negotiated settlement of issue. And that is what I'm talking about, that to negotiate, next time when we sit down at the table, it should be Taliban who should be asking for it. They should be pre-laid down conditions that they have to agree to, and that is when Pakistan must get to on the negotiating table. And then for Pakistan to have that kind of weightage, they need the heavyweights in the region. And the heavyweights, I think, are totally on Pakistan's side. We just listening to reading one of the comments from spokesperson of China. They said they totally agree with you. And Russia has already held a conference where they said that Pakistan must not allow this kind of thing. Iran, I said, is already relationship may have been not so good in the past, but in the recent past, I've seen that our relationship have improved tremendously, and they too can be part of this whole thing. So my point is that it's not only one way of doing things. There are a number of things that have to be done simultaneously, concurrently, to create that environment where Pakistan gets the issues settled in Pakistan's favor and, more importantly, in Pakistan's favor.
All right, sir. That was an interesting observation and, of course, influence from your part. And we continue to take that from you as well, because our second story, which also concerns South Asia, is what happened in Wana. In an attempt to destabilize Pakistan further and, of course, attack the children of Pakistan, a sad reminder of the 2014 APS attack as well happened in Wana, as well as in South Waziristan at the Cadet College there. But it was the timely intervention of our intelligence forces, our intelligence networks, our security forces, that the attackers were neutralized before they could reach the students. And now, of course, all of the students and the academia have safely been evacuated from this. The choice of target tells a deeper story, that the aim was symbolic to strike an institution that was shaping the next generation of Pakistan. The falling of this attack is a success, but it also exposes the persistent cross-border facilitation networks that are still enabling militants to plan, regroup and attempt operations. My first question in this regard, of course, comes to you, Farhan Bokhari sir. How important was this operation from a Pakistani security perspective? The way our forces thwarted this attack in a timely, organized fashion, and of course that resulted in all of the academia students now safely evacuated.
Well, you have to commend the security forces for the lives that were saved. It's tragic that there were casualties too, but people have to remember that this is not an easy situation to manage. I heard recently from someone who knows the lie of the land in Northwest or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, and he was telling me that there are at least 17 tribes which are split between Pakistan and Afghanistan, so that people travel back and forth. Although Pakistan has tightened controls in the last many years, but still there are people who are related to others on the other side, and therefore the Durand line, the border is very hard to police and very hard to therefore block off completely, sealed off completely. It's not an easy one. Now, in that situation, with that background, this tragic incident is a reminder of how we all need to focus on this area as much as possible, because it's not just a slice of our border with Afghanistan, it's the future of Pakistan. And therefore, we cannot accept such non-state actors to keep on pressing ahead with one attack after another. This is something which is simply not acceptable, should not be acceptable to the Pakistani state. Also, I have to say that earlier on when I said it's a one-way street, it is, of course, it seems like a one-way street right now, because people on the other side, the rulers in Kabul, are not prepared to sit down with Pakistan and negotiate sensibly and arrive at some kind of a solution. If tomorrow their thinking changes and they see the light of the day, of course, Pakistan should always seriously look at options.
But this is a very, there are a lot of question marks around seeing the light of day, because Pakistan has tried whatever it could in the last few months as well, as far as seeing the light of day is concerned. And this brings me to the next question with General Ghulam Mustafa Saab. General Saab, I'd like to understand in this whole arena of what happened in Islamabad that we've recently discussed, and of course now at Wana, and this not only the whole eventuality of this heinous attack or attacks, but also the symbolism of all of that, attacking the capital city and then attacking the future generations of Pakistan. How should Pakistan react now? What are the options that we have in front of us, and what do you feel as an analyst or somebody who understands Pakistan's strategic arena, that this is the path that Pakistan needs to follow in order to not only show the perpetrators of such terrorism, but also the terrorists themselves, of not to venture again in this territory?
I think Pakistan has to strike, and strike very hard, and keep striking till such time we find that the people in Pakistan fully understand that the state is not going to tolerate anything of this kind. Peoples of Pakistan who have a lot of confidence in our state, their confidence has to be boosted to the extent that they all get together on one point agenda, that Pakistan is under attack, and this is not attack simply by some mad man across the line. It is a concerted effort aimed at, unfortunately, trying to destabilize Pakistan and maybe damage it further. So therefore, Pakistan state has to strive to create that one level of confidence in the entire citizenry of the country. That will happen if Pakistan is seen, the Pakistan state is seen to be doing what it can, it has, and it will continue to do. So with that one point on one side, we must understand that they are targeting capital. They have targeted our children, not once, second time. They have targeted our hospitals. They have targeted everybody that they think they can. So therefore, this application of kinetic force has become kind of a mandatory right now at this point in time. That has to be, there is, I think, if I have any understanding of how our security chiefs are thinking and how they have been thinking, the way they acted against India, the way we went against Afghanistan, and our young, very young daughter was the one who led the strike in Kabul. So that is very clear in my mind, that there has to be a retaliation, and there will be, and there will be a price tag attached to the kind of incident that happened to our children in Wana and our people in Islamabad. That is, without any question, that has to be done. And that one action, and that kind of action, will improve the level of confidence that people of Pakistan have in their own state. And like Bokhari Sahib was saying, I agree with him. There is a time now for the government of Pakistan to realize that minor differences notwithstanding, they need to get everybody on board of the larger strategy that Pakistan is applying here, so that there is never any deviation from the direction Pakistan is going. There is never any doubt about what Pakistan plans to do, and there's no leg pulling, or there's no force dragging Pakistan down, or bringing Pakistan into a kind of a dispute that normally we try and create. So there is, I think, so therefore, at the end of the day, application of force by united people of Pakistan who have total confidence in their state, and state drawing strength from this kind of confidence, must approach the issue in the larger strategic context.
This is how How, I mean, there are different paradigms to how Pakistan needs to approach this issue, and of course, I am sure Pakistan's forces and Pakistan's government knows the exact methodology that needs to be applied under the current circumstances, and I hope that the world and the powers that are facilitating these militant outfits, and of course the militant outfits themselves, would be shown how Pakistan responds and can respond. Now, thank you very much, Lieutenant General Ghulam Mustafa Saab, Defence Analyst, to have joined us and to have given us your broad perspective on these very two important topics. And now we are going to come to the third topic, which also concerns South Asia and, of course, the a lot that happened in our not so friendly neighborhood country, and that is India. Bihar heading into a decisive electoral phase, but India once again activates a familiar political tool, the narrative of an external threat, and of course using the Pakistan card when it comes to any such incident, and of course false flag operations. We've seen that before in Pulwama, we've seen that in Balakot, we've seen that in Gujarat and UB State Post, and we see it again in Delhi. More in the following report.
New revelations have once again exposed India's long history of orchestrating false flag operations designed to gain political mileage, deflect domestic crises, and malign Pakistan on the international stage. Evidence and eyewitness accounts increasingly suggest that India's leadership and media are complicit in shaping false narratives to advance extremist and electoral agendas. Indian police investigations have already confirmed that the 2007 Samjhauta Express bombing, which killed dozens of Pakistani passengers, was in fact carried out by Hindu extremist networks, not Pakistan-based groups as initially claimed. Arrested militant Swami Asimanan openly confessed in court that the Samjhauta Express, Ajmer Dargah, and Malegaon blasts were orchestrated by Hindu organizations. Similarly, a former CBI officer and members of India's Special Investigation Team revealed that the 2001 Parliament attack and the 2008 Mumbai attacks were politically motivated operations aimed at gaining global sympathy and tightening the government's grip on power. Adding to these revelations, former Jammu and Kashmir Governor Satyapal Malik described the 2019 Pulwama attack as a planned conspiracy deliberately timed to benefit the ruling BJP during elections. Analysts note a recurring pattern, from the 2000 Chittisingpura massacre to the Uri, Pahalgam, and now Red Fort attacks, all coinciding with major political events or elections, and swiftly followed by anti-Pakistan propaganda. The latest Red Fort blast once again exposed the Indian media's manipulative role. Initially, Indian outlets reported it as a cylinder explosion, but within hours, the narrative dramatically shifted without any investigation or forensic evidence to blame Pakistan for the incident. This sudden reversal highlights the premeditated use of the media as an arm of India's hybrid warfare strategy to demonize Pakistan and distract the public from domestic instability, economic failures, and human rights violations in Indian illegally occupied Kashmir.
We've been joined by Muhammad Umar, who is, of course, a security analyst, joins us from the US as well, and Farhan Bokhari Saab also continues to join us in the studio as well. But my first question will be from Umar, and then we'll go to Farhan Saab. Umar, thank you very much to have joined us. I'd like to understand the timing of it all. We've seen it in the past. Every time there's some kind of an election campaign in India, we see an incident that happens, and then the Pakistan card is used and the blame game begins, and at the end we find out this has been a false flag operation. This time as well is no exception at all. Why continue with such cycles? I understand there's a political momentum that is gained for the BJP as a result of this, but I mean, doesn't the Indian political administration understand the toll that it has on their own public, or maybe they don't care about it?
Absolutely, Umar. Thank you for having me on. This attack, very unfortunate attack in a Muslim majority area in New Delhi near the Red Fort, raises serious questions. Questions that you've already been discussing. Who benefits? Especially during the Bihar election, the political timing absolutely cannot be ignored. As far as does the Indian government or the players that are involved in planning such attacks, these false flag attacks in India, do they understand what they're doing? Absolutely. These are very, very deliberate, very sophisticated, thought out operations that have served them in the past, that continue to serve them today, and that's why they continue to do this. Do they care about their own citizens? Well, the location makes makes you want to question why. Why this location? Why now? So we must consider that this is definitely could possibly potentially be a false flag operation, or could be used as a diversionary tactic for the other attacks that they've continued to support that have taken place recently in Pakistan. So, and India's immediate narrative, which never makes sense, terrorism, without any evidence. India has yet to publish any forensic or intelligence evidence linking any group, anyone to this horrible attack. So this, Pakistan always ends up having more questions. We always ask India for more proof. We always ask for transparency, and we get none of it. Instead, it becomes a diversionary tactic used to benefit um, their own propaganda within the country.
All right, of course, it's all used for propaganda within the country and is all used as a political tool. But how far can a government like the Indian government, Farhan Saab, go just to use their own people, to use terrorist false flag incidents and then put the blame game on Pakistan so that they can use it as a political tool to gain more mileage within the voters? How low can you stoop?
I must say that the pattern is long established. The pattern being that every time there's some kind of a political event or challenge coming up domestically, just by chance, and it's not necessarily by chance, but for the sake of argument, by chance, something of this kind happens inside India, and we all remember Pahalgam this year, which led to the Indo-Pak clashes in May this year. So I think the Indians need to be more imaginative, for want of a better word. Frankly, this pattern is one that's become somewhat predictable. Every time there is some event domestically in India about to happen, something like this happens. So it's become part of a recurring pattern, and at the very least, on a lighter tone, it suggests that the Indians have lost their imagination, at least come up with a new formula of some kind, so that people would be amazed.
But unfortunately, they can't or they don't want to come out of this whole narrative, and they somehow believe all of that. But a big factor in all of this is the Indian media and how they also contort this whole thing to follow the entire timeline of how the Indian BJP government says it. And that is what I'd like to understand from you, Umar, as well. The Godi media, as we call them, because of course the Indian media is following a certain pattern. You must have been following the Indian media. You saw how the Hindustan Times called it a cylinder attack. It was an attack. It was an explosion, first of all. Then the whole narrative changed to attack. Then the whole narrative changed to terrorism. And we saw how all of that was changing. And we also saw how Republic TV and their famous anchor have, before even any such insinuation had been made by any other quarter, was pointing fingers and was using the Pakistan word, this hammering of the Pakistan word to change or to somehow, change the narrative within India of what Pakistan stands for. Isn't it dangerous, to say the least, or is this a game that India loves to play?
Umar, this is a game India loves to play. The Indian government quickly terms any attack in their country terrorism, with a promise of full investigation that never comes. The Indian media picks up on the language, the verbiage, the talking points from the government. And, Pakistan's point of view internationally has always been that the burden of proof lies with the accuser. This is simple forensics, and you've seen, Pakistan present evidence like this to the international community and to the international media. If India is pointing a finger at Pakistan, then show us the forensic evidence: vehicle ownership, explosive residue, bank phone records, external linkages, simple forensic evidence that you need. Until that is shared, doubts will continue to persist. Pakistan has always has stood for truth seeking. If the evidence exists, bring it forward. If not, you have to ask. The Indian media has to ask themselves, Was this designed to shape internal Indian public opinion, draw Pakistan into a narrative, or justify any kind of upcoming policy decisions, including the elections that are happening in Bihar later this year?
All right, Umar, my last question to you is going to be a short one, but this is something that we all understand very, very well. Is national security in India being used for protection, not for protection, but for political persuasion? And if so, to what end will this move on? Farhan very ably said, you know, this is a repeat plot and reminds us all of their Bollywood movies as well, on how they repeat the same plot if it becomes a success. But is it a success? Is this plot really enabling the BJP government to get in more voters?
Umar, the Bollywood, I love that reference. The Bollywood story that we see playing out over and over again. The story is that there's terror inside India, and the message is always that Pakistan must answer. But what they don't realize is the risk of not just drawing Pakistan into a propaganda war or framing. Um, this needs to be forensic based. You've seen the outcome after May. India's failed propaganda internationally. Their journalists who were respected lost tremendous credibility. Their institutions, their political leaders lost tremendous credibility when it came to the court of international media, when it came to presenting evidence at international forums. Pakistan has the forensic evidence. Pakistan has proven over and over again where the funding is coming from, who the people are, what kind of tactics they use. But this Bollywood story, unfortunately, is not going to get India very much further. You've seen how the U.S. government has responded. You've seen how the global international community has responded after the attacks in May. And, you know, will India learn from this? You want to hope and pray that there are competent, logical, sensible people sitting across the border that put a stop to this madness. This Bollywood movie is going nowhere.
All right, Umar, but you know, I'd like to kind of completely negate the fact that competent, logical people who understand the narrative, I am sure that they really don't understand the narrative at all. But of course, this is how things move on. We are a bit short of time. Farhan Bokhari sahab was so impatient to answer one of my questions, but we'll take it for the next time. Thank you very much, Farhan Bokhari sahab, to have joined us. Thank you very much, Umar, to have joined us all the way from the US. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that under this whole scenario, we've seen, whether it be in Wana, whether it be in Islamabad, or whether that be the whole Indian government reaction to what happened in their capital city and how they are using it as leverage when the Bihar elections or the polls are underway. The fact is that terrorism is no joke. The fact is that it is high time that countries like India stop using terrorism as a political tool for their persuasion to get more voters. At the same time, they should also stop financing Afghan terrorist outfits that are present within the Afghan territories and trying to destabilize Pakistan. The onus of responsibility also is on the Afghan Taliban government to do the needful to stop the infiltration of such terrorist elements within Pakistani territories. Because if this does not continue, Pakistan will respond. It responded to India in May, it responded to Afghanistan a couple of weeks back, and it has all the right to respond the way it wants to show it these and all other elements what Pakistan is capable of. Allah Hafiz.